So let me know if you cannot see the prayers. I am going to make them bigger. And we're going to start again with the praise to Shakyamuni Buddha. And again, putting your mind in a positive space and think about this incredible opportunity we have right now. Incredible chance to have a center that's offering these teachings. Just a chance that thank you for making the time in your life to have a day, a weekend, a morning, whatever you can do right now. Thank you so much. So thinking about the Buddha in the space in front, who is an incredible blessing for our minds and hearts, and to set ourselves up with a buoyant cushion to be able to receive these teachings well and to listen well, and to be able to apply them to our lives, to make our lives brighter, happier, more peaceful, and so that we can move along a path to becoming Buddhas ourselves. But that is not the end goal here in this tradition. It is to reach that place, because then we're unlimited, to help all living beings, and we can help them reach that place as well. So with this in mind, let's read these praises. Guru, teacher, Bhagavan, Tathagata, Arhat, perfectly complete Buddha, perfect in knowledge and good conduct, Shugata, knower of the world, supreme guide of beings to be subdued, teacher of gods and humans, to you, Buddha Bhagavan, glorious conqueror Shakyamuni, I prostrate, make offerings, and go for refuge. Guru, teacher, Bhagavan, Tathagata, Arhat, perfectly complete Buddha, perfect in knowledge and good conduct, Shugata, knower of the world, supreme guide of beings to be subdued, teacher of gods and humans, to you, Buddha Bhagavan, glorious conqueror Shakyamuni, I prostrate, make offerings, and go for refuge. Guru, teacher, Bhagavan, Tathagata, Arhat, perfectly complete Buddha, perfect in knowledge and good conduct, Shugata, knower of the world, supreme guide of beings to be subdued, teacher of gods and humans, to you, Buddha Bhagavan, glorious conqueror Shakyamuni, I prostrate, make offerings, and go for refuge. When supreme among humans, you were born on this earth, you paced out 7 strides, then said, I am supreme in this world. To you who are wise, then I prostrate. Oops. Let's see if I can. Oh, it's not doing it. Okay. With pure bodies, oops, sorry, I'm not very good with the. With pure bodies, form supremely pure, wisdom ocean like a golden mountain, fame that blazes in the 3 worlds, winner of the best, savior to you I prostrate. With the supreme signs, face like a spotless moon, color like gold, to you I prostrate. Dust free like you, the 3 worlds are not, incomparably wise one, to you I prostrate. The savior having great compassion, the teacher having all understanding, the field of merit with qualities like a vast ocean, to you, the one gone to thusness, I prostrate. The purity that frees one from attachment, the virtue that frees one from the lower realms, the one path, the sublime pure reality, to the Dharma that pacifies, I prostrate. Do not commit any unwholesome action. Oh, sorry. Those who are liberated and also show the path to liberation, the holy field qualified with realizations, who are devoted to the moral precepts, to you, the sublime community intending virtue, I prostrate. Do not commit any unwholesome actions. Engage in perfect wholesome actions. Subdue one's own mind. This is the teaching of the Buddha. A star, a defective view, a butter lamp flame, an illusion, a dewdrop, a water bubble, a dream, lightning, a cloud. See all causative phenomena like this. By these merits, may all transmigratory beings attain the state of all seeing, subdue the enemy of faults, and be freed from the ocean of samsara disturbed by the waves of aging, sickness, and death. So we're going to do this prayer, the four immeasurables. We're going to send this out to the universe right now. Beautiful version, sending out in this order: immeasurable love, compassion, joy, and equanimity. To really feel this energy coming from your heart and think about all the beings around the planet, many struggling right now under horrible conditions. Let's send this out to them. May all sentient beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. May all sentient beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May all sentient beings never be separated from the happiness that knows no suffering. May all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free of attachment and hatred for those held close and distant. So as a standard daily kind of regular way to practice, if you're not able to do a lot of practice, the four immeasurables are incredibly powerful prayers and they're easy to memorize, and you put, if you don't know the exact words sometimes and you're in your car or you're on the train and you can just send this out to people all over. And so when you notice irritation arising for you, irritation is arising, this is what you want to reach for. So have it readily in your mind quickly, even if you just memorize one at a time and you take a week and that's the one you're going out there with, you get a little irritated at somebody. May you have happiness and the cause of happiness. Or may all sentient beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. It's a wonderful thing to soak your mind in, because we're also talking about everything comes from the mind, and we have gross and subtle imprints of negativity. And that gets carried on into life after life after life. So a great way to start using some other tools, this is a really easy one, like that. Seven limb prayer. This is another beautiful, just 7 lines, talking about paying homage, making offerings, confessing negativity, rejoicing in virtues, asking the Buddhas to stay until the end of samsara so they can help us, that we always have someone to teach us, to be with us, to bless us. To turn the wheel of Dharma means that they'll teach, and then we dedicate the merit. So it's packed in with unbelievable practice in these 7 lines. This is a short version, but some of our Guru Yoga practices have more elaborate versions. So Lama Tsongkhapa Guru Yoga, wonderful Guru Yoga you could all do if you're wanting to do a practice like that, just has verses for each line. The Lama Chopa that we do, I think we might be doing one here on Wednesday. So I know the pujas are not popular. I've heard that from many centers. Okay, many people. But I do want, and I'll mention this again and again, they set up a blessing for the center and for your mind. Now, again, we don't really understand some of the Lama Chopa. It's just an elaborate 7-limb prayer. That's what it is. And you get this opportunity through that because there's verses like where it says, I present clouds of every type of offering. The second one is offering. Well, there's verses of offerings. So it's more merit for you. So a little bit, so people get bored, they don't really understand. Slowly, and if you take Highest Yoga Tantra Initiation one day, you can get a commentary on it. And that's a container for all of your practice. Everything gets built into that. So you can do them pretty quickly as well if you want to have that. And then everything gets built in. So you've got this cushion all day. You could start it in the morning, go to work, do your thing, come back, pick it up, continue on, do a little bit every day like that till you get more familiar with it. Very, very powerful. So Monday I'm here, but again, it's a time people are working, 4 o'clock. Sometimes if you have the pujas, maybe at a better time, more people might come. I don't know. Anyway, 4 p.m. I think online and in person. So I'll be leading a Tara Puja. So if you're interested, it's about an hour, hour and a half maximum. So Tara clears away obstacles. So you have any obstacles in your life? This is the practice that you want to be doing. It's only once a month. Okay. Wednesday's Lama Chopa. And is that at 4 o'clock? Or
It's 3 o'clock.
3 o'clock? So I have to,
Unless you want to change it.
yeah, I want to look on Wednesday. I didn't get the time, so I'll double check. And that's, I may be leading that 3 o'clock here Wednesday. You can join, and it's a little bit of a party. You know, technically it's a gathering. That's what you're gathering. Guru Puja is the Sanskrit. There's not a Lama Chopa. Like some people would come to the center and go, "Is Lama Chopa here?" Like they didn't, you know, that's very common. But Guru Puja means you're yoking yourself. You're setting up an assembly. We're setting up the situations. People bring offerings. We put them out on the altar set up. But then what you're doing is in the visualization of this practice, as you visualize, it's quite elaborate and beautiful. You're asking all these holy beings to come and join your party. It's great, you know. And then at the end, you get to eat all the offerings, share them. And, you know, for me, it was always like in the beginning, I was like, this is like Halloween. You know, this is great. People bring chocolate and all kinds of, but mainly it's a very sacred, beautiful situation to bring yourself closer to the enlightened energy like that. So I just wanted to explain that a little bit. And they set up a flourishing for the center. They're recommended for us to do certain pujas during the month from Lama Zopa Rinpoche. So there's a powerful energy to it that unfortunately, because we're often very dense and kind of gross, we don't really pick up on that to know that this is uplifting. So yes, of course, in the beginning, when you come, this is normal. I'm just being very real here about, that's the way I teach. You kind of go on a really, and this has been for monks and nuns, I know, I don't really want to do the puja right now. Like, I don't know, it's going to be, you know, and then you do it. And usually after, everybody feels great. Everybody's really happy that they did it. And we just came from Nepal, Kopan, where in a retreat setting, Rinpoche likes us to roll out very slowly a longer Lama Chopa version because it sets you up for powerful retreat, much better retreat experiences for the most part, especially due to your faith and things like that. And so we were doing about 2 to 3 hours in the morning of this practice. And it would go over a couple of sessions. So we take a break like that and come back and finish. And sometimes we had breakfast during the middle of it. And it was quite powerful like that. And so I do know there were times where, you know, we'd show up in the morning and be like, oh no, it's a long thing. But then we were quite happy when, and you have parts of it that you like. Anyway, let's go back to the 7-limb prayer. We will read in English. And think about the words that you're saying. I prostrate reverently with my body, speech, and mind. I present clouds of every type of offering, both actually arranged and mentally emanated. I confess all my negative actions and downfalls collected from beginningless time. I rejoice in the virtues of ordinary beings and Aryas. Please remain until the end of cyclic existence and turn the wheel of Dharma for transmigratory beings. I dedicate my own and others' virtues to the great enlightenment. We'll go to the mandala offering. And again, visualizing the most incredible universes you can imagine. This ground, anointed with perfume, strewn with flowers, adorned with Mount Meru, 4 continents, the sun and the moon, I imagine as a Buddha land and offer it. May all transmigratory beings enjoy this pure land. Idam Guru Ratna Mandalakam Hiratayami. Taking refuge in generating bodhicitta. Get to the right one. There we go. This is the one we do before the teachings with the 3rd line, listening to the Dharma instead of by practicing generosity and the other perfection, just slightly different. I take refuge until I'm enlightened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By my merits of listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha to benefit transmigratory beings. O Sangye Chodan Soki Chonamla Janchu Bardu Dagni Kyapsuchi Gi Chenyingi Peso Namki Drola Pencher Sangye Druparsho Sangye Chodan Soki Chonamla Janchu Bardu Dagni Kyapsuchi Dagi Chenyingi Peso Namki Drola Pencher Sangye Druparsho Partial. Thank you very much. Right. Okay, here we go. Great. So just as a review, we had a short video of Lama Zopa Rinpoche. And beginning on karma, that everything comes from the mind. And Rinpoche was also talking about when you can look at life like sightseeing. Sightseeing. If you're driving by something, you're taking the train, you're on the metro going to work, going to have dinner or something, and you look around, okay? And the way we tend to do sightseeing, and you get out of a bus and you snap some pictures, but you want to start doing a sightseeing of the mindfulness. The mindfulness is all of this experience is coming from my mind. It's not separate out there from me. I know it looks like it is, and buildings look extremely concrete. So you even look at the walls of this room and the floor of this room, and there's something that, you feel like you want to hang on to, okay? And that's what ignorance does for us. And Rinpoche says ignorance decorates. It decorates all that we're experiencing. And all of these things are coming in through our sense faculties. That's how we experience the world, right? Sense faculties. We see things, we hear things, we smell things, we taste things, and we touch things. Okay. So the more you can kind of play with that, especially this weekend, but it's continuous. This is your Dharma life. Like, this is where we really want to. So I'm not really teaching this at a beginner's level. Wanted to go a little more deeply because we have our lovely courses, DB, Discovering Buddhism, and you get a first gush, not that it's just beginners in the course, it can be also taught at an intermediate level. But some of you have heard that course before. So let's really look at, well, what do we mean about karma? How does it really work that everything is coming from our mind? Then Rinpoche talked about projection. Okay, and we're going to go more into that. In a sense, so everything that you think, say, and do, okay, is projecting out like a movie screen, and it's playing back to you constantly. So when we suffer, that's when we suddenly want to really know what's going on. Yeah. But we can practice in everyday life. Okay, but it's only when we suffer. And I see this at many times where certain centers that I run in certain seasons, like in Vermont, I was living in the northeast of the States, very close to Canada, running a center, Milarepa Center, for 5 or so years. And in October, the light starts to change. It's the same thing in the Netherlands. Your light starts going, the season changes, gets colder. So there's some people that enjoy that and like that, but a lot of people start getting depressed. So suddenly our calls would start coming in from the center of people suicidal, drinking again, very depressed, and it's natural, just a natural. So again, when people start to suffer, then they go to church and they want to talk to the priest and say, can you help me? My wife got a cancer diagnosis. I certainly hope that never happens for you, but, and this is when we suddenly turn to, we want something bigger than ourselves, turn to religion. You suddenly start thinking about God, praying to God, and that's when people tend to populate our Buddhist centers. Then they have a problem and they come, right? They want a quick fix like that. And it's interesting because I also meet with students online and do some coaching and things like that. And there are some people that really want to unpack practices that Lama Zopa Rinpoche gave them, and they're doing it. Like they're working on these practices, and they're very, that's it. But there's a few people that have emergencies in their life that find me all different ways, you know, they're not necessarily associated with the center. They find me and they just immediately want that fix of this happened in my life. My girlfriend left me, you know, and suddenly I can tell it's just going to be a temporary, they want it, and then they get through it. And then, you know, I never hear from them again, or they, you know, until the next emergency, you know, could be a year later. And then they go, oh, my boss is, you know, something. So we can do this all the time now. I would encourage you not to wait for an emergency, because what this course is talking about is you also have subtle imprints in your mind. And it's those that are perpetuating our taking rebirth once again with contaminated aggregates, with ignorance in our mind. Okay, and it's very hard to undo that. Rinpoche even saying it's like worse than coming back in some really bad suffering hell one time, like that, because you're constantly perpetuating this. And again, karma is a mental factor. And talking about this, let me just go back to a more of a definition, more concrete definition. I love when Rinpoche talks about long run evolution. Okay, karma again. Now we could just say Sanskrit word that means action, or you know, the movement of your mind. So some people say it like that. Again, longer the intention. This is the karma that accompanies a principal consciousness. So your mind, every activity it does. You know, now we have a lot of blind intentions. I never thought about it. Just mindlessly doing stuff. That's the biggest stuff that gets us into trouble. If I'm mindlessly doing things with ignorance, which we're constantly doing, sorry to break it to you, until you have a direct perception of emptiness. Okay. But don't get down on yourself. We're working on this. That's the best you can do, is you're working on it. We have to constantly be poking at it. So you've got a mental factor, intention's a mental factor, which is your mind. Karma is mind. Everything comes from karma, means whatever forms we see, sounds we hear, odors we smell, tastes we taste, the tangibles we touch. These appearances arise due to karma, previous activities in the past. Okay, the intention that motivated our actions of body, speech, and mind. So you want to check this. If you want to check this, there's times you come in contact with something with a friend of yours at the same time, right? And you have different experiences of it, right? Yeah. There's people that you like that your friend doesn't like. How is that possible? So is it the person? Because if the person inherently existed like that in a form that you're feeling is not safe or undesirable, right? Then they have to be that way for all beings. That's the way you experience them. Okay, but they don't exist that way. It is simply something coming from your mind that projects something on them, you know, and if I have a negative imprint coming up in my mind, and why is that negative imprint suddenly arising? I can't say. Karma is so intricate. That's what got activated, right? And then it projects onto that external reality. Now it's projecting something I don't like, because negativity will project suffering out there. So it happened to be planted on this person that happens to be walking toward me at any given time, right? And now I project aversion I don't like. But my friend's having a positive karma ripening in her mind, right? And what gets projected on there is wonderful. I like his shirt, great. This is the person I wanted to meet. You know, very different experience. So you have to keep poking at each thing that you're, you know, we'll see, we'll have lunch here. Those of us that are here, and some of you will have lunch at home, and there's certain things when you open your refrigerator, and especially people that live with other people, there's things in your refrigerator you don't like. You didn't buy them, the other person bought them. And you'll see, and sometimes even you yourself open the refrigerator. Now you have some old food in there. You have some things that you're going to take more time to heat up, but you have the quick things you can grab. And you just notice all those experiences. This is just you looking at your mind. This is basic mindfulness exercises of this particular module of living in the path. But do you understand what I mean? Is when you open the refrigerator, mindfulness activity, pause for a moment and look at what your mind's taking in. You understand? Everybody with me, right? So look at what your mind's taking and look how some things you go, oh, oh, right. There's like always this, and it's going on constantly. You know, you just walk in the room and right away it's like, I want to sit there. I want that cushion. It's a constant, you know, all coming from your mind. And keep reminding yourself, this is simply coming from your mind. You know, why somebody wants a higher cushion in the seat and they see that and they go, oh, I want that cushion. And somebody else goes, oh, no, I can't sit on that cushion. My back will hurt. You know, I need a chair. You know, and just, so you want to constantly, these are mundane things, but this is where we start. This is where we look at, like I walked in the room today. Olfactory consciousness coming in, coffee.
Yeah.
You just made coffee. I smelled it, right? And for me, it's a good feeling. I impute whatever gets projected on coffee is positive for me. It's positive karmic imprint suddenly manifests. And I walked in and I was like, nice. But it's Monday. But again, that's only coming from my mind. I know people that don't like coffee and they'll smell it and they go, oh, I don't like that smell. That's all that's happening. That's the tea. Sorry. Okay. So this is where we'll take questions in a moment. Hang on to that question because we also have the desk, the comment of the desk, and we had a question about that. Okay. Let me just go on a little bit. Let's start here. So now this is Rinpoche. Okay. And we talked about what is being labeled by the mind. I launched in. Okay. So let's go to the desk. We had a comment about the desk yesterday. Is there a desk there? There's a table here in front of me. We can use this. Some of you are sitting at a desk right now. Perfect, you know, with your computer. Now, what happens is conventional reality, there's a desk there. And that means that we have an agreement as human beings in this part of the world. And I'm just using the English language. Thank you for letting me do that. But in that, with English, then it's labeled desk, D-E-S-K. We know that word. I think most of you, everyone knows that word and what it is. And it's something you place things on. It's something you can sit at and put things on. Like that. It has a certain function. That's its function. Right. For instance, this is not a desk. This has a different function. So if you label desk on this, it's incorrect. So we have to have an accurate base, a basis that we're labeling for desk. Okay. This has a different label. Okay. But everything, again, just look around right now, is labeled by your mind. Everything is labeled by your mind. And we are going to take a break in this session too. I wanted to mention we go to 12:30 morning session, but we are going to take a break in between. So then you can go to the bathroom, you can have your coffee. Okay. So
Okay for everyone, because we actually exercise 12 to 1:30 for lunch.
okay, I think I changed it to 12:30 to 2 or with Lizette, but does that work for everybody? And does that work for people online if we go to 12:30? What I find is once you eat, then everybody's like tired. So I tend to have a longer morning session if that's okay. And we go till 4, right? So then we'd have a 2 to 4, if that's okay. She's smiling. So if that's okay, and of course, if you have to go to the bathroom, please don't let me stop you. But okay, let's go back. Everything's labeled by the mind. So everything's pretty much defined, correct? Now, tell me if you find something not labeled by the mind. Anybody on screen? Anybody here? Really, but think about my mind is labeling. So I see these pictures hanging, and I'm just using the Gompa right now. We have tankas hanging on the wall. You may have one on your wall. Some of you can see behind me, there's a tanka. Okay, so you're seeing that. But you could also look at it. Let's go back to the basis of it. It's a rectangular piece of cloth. Rectangular, if you want to get fancier, it's a rectangular piece of silk brocade, inside of which is a painting of a certain Buddhist deity, certain aspect of the Buddha. This one is the Buddha, I think. Oh, Lama Tsongkhapa. Lama Tsongkhapa. Okay. But they're similar. You know, they've got the rectangular brocade, rectangular cloth, inside of which they've put a painting. Okay. So that's like taken then, and then we have a name for that. We have another label called Tanka. Tanka. Okay. You could say Tibetan religious iconography or religious painting. Okay. Tanka. Okay. So these are further labeled. So you see how there's a labeling process, but if you want to go back a moment, it's a rectangular piece of cloth hung on the wall in a certain way with inside is a picture of something. So you see how you can break it down to notice that labeling process. It's quite nice when occasionally this happens. I mentioned this before in another class. Occasionally, something due to like limited visibility or something, you can't quite see what somebody's presenting to you. And I love that because you have a moment where it's not defined. You don't know what it is. I'll give you an example. Okay, but you have to keep seeing there is a labeling process. So years ago, I was in the kitchen at Vajrapani Institute, our beautiful retreat center in California. And it was summer. We had the lights off, but there was dim light coming through the kitchen. Just the two of us in the kitchen, a friend of mine across the room, right? It was summertime. And she was holding something here. And she said, "Do you want one?" And I remember she had her hand up, but I couldn't see what she was holding up. Couldn't see what it was, what the one was, right? But it had a purplish color. But for some reason, my mind went to, again, labeling process. The basis is this purple round thing that was here in her hand. Basis to be labeled by the mind. Basis to be labeled by the mind, okay? I had a mistaken basis, though. So all that came to my consciousness, this is American maybe, but I'm not sure the word in Dutch, or was hockey puck. Like what you use in a hockey game, ice hockey. But, you know, whatever, I don't know. I don't know if they're purple, but so for some reason, all I could in my mind get around is why is she holding a hockey puck up in her, again, you know, limited view. So you see a different label, not the accurate base, but it was a plum. It was a piece of fruit, plum she was holding up. And then she held it and I went, oh, plum, different label. But see, my mind is constantly, your mind's projecting. And then it projects good, bad, other, I like, I don't like, fat, thin, ill, healthy, tall, short, Dutch, American, like it's busy.
Yeah.
It's busy, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right. And samsara is really, really loud, by the way, as we know. It's loud. Samsara is the cycle to turn, means to turn, to cycle. And we cycle through what they call, same word, cyclic existence, as many of you know, okay, that is suffering. Birth, old age, sickness, death. Samsara is our experience as long as we take rebirth with contaminated aggregates, body and mind, because we don't have a direct perception of emptiness. We keep coming back in samsara, and samsara is really loud, I find. I don't even mean volume-wise, but we're so distracted. We're so thoroughly distracted. Okay, so this is something where the meditation practice, you know, engaging in courses, coming to the center, doing these types of things quiets that samsara and it quiets your mind. So the mind can be more focused on something. And so these exercises are helpful also to kind of, instead of all the other noise, kind of go, okay, look at what I'm labeling now. Look at how I'm labeling everything. Okay, so the desk then becomes, it is an accurate base to be labeled by the mind desk, okay? And so conventionally we have that agreement that we all in here would understand. We could call this a desk or table, like that. And we have an arrangement that we all agree this is a valid basis to be labeled desk or table, okay? But what we want to say is on an ultimate level, the ultimate nature of the table is it's empty, meaning it's absent of having a concrete nature as desk, a concretized view of that, a reified view, these are all synonyms, meaning a desk existing from its own side with its own nature. What does that mean? Well, a concrete inherently, see, these are all synonyms, inherently existent desk means it's always desk. And inherently existent things, in a sense, please think about this, are frozen in time and space. Frozen in time and space means no ability to change. Frozen in time and space, they're always that thing, okay? Which means if they're always that thing, concretely existing desk with its own nature, okay? Always a desk, okay? Inherently existent desk with its own deskness, intrinsic value, okay? That means it doesn't have parts because it doesn't come from other things. It's one whole glommed component. The desk doesn't exist like that. Right? In order to be a desk, okay, it depends on legs. Now I know there's other desks that don't have fancy, but basically they have legs, they have a top, because the function of it is you put things on it. It would have a top, it would have desk, it has sides. That's all made up, has a molecular structure to it that's working a little bit more slowly than, say, air molecules, because it's more solid. So it depends on all those other things to come into existence, is what Buddhism says. It depends on other things to come into existence. We would call that a dependent arising, related to dependent origination. Okay, it originates, it comes from depending on other things. It's the only way it can exist as a desk. Because, and these relate together, because it lacks any concrete inherent existence. It's empty of that. So you always have dependent arising with emptiness. You can't have one without the other. Because if it's always empty and it lacks any concrete existence, we can fall into one extreme of nihilism. Well, there's no desk there at all. Desk doesn't exist at all. And then the other extreme is reification. Same word, concretization. Okay, the desk exists inherently. It exists for all time. It exists unchanging. It's always going to be desk with its own deskness. Doesn't exist like that at all. Like that. So we've got those two extremes we try to avoid by following the middle way, that the desk does exist, okay, depending on other things. And because of that, it's empty of having any concrete nature like that, any concrete form, structure that's always desk. Does that make sense? Slowly. Yeah, you work, yeah, take it. It's a big, this is one of our most profound kind of parts of the topic. So we want to keep seeing, and what happens is when a certain configuration comes together for desk, okay, and meaning it's got to have a valid basis of designation. And so if I have a flat structure with legs that's up, and I put it against the wall in my flat, right, and I can pull a chair up, and then I kind of put my computer on it, and I have a computer stand, and I might have scissors here and paper clips or whatever. I have notebooks, then that has a valid basis of designation. That in conventional time in this part of the world, with our language, the mind, again, sees that, okay, takes in the information, the data, and let's say in this case through visual consciousness, my eye sees a certain thing. I mean, we could say table, desk, somewhat similar, but it sees a certain configuration, and based on me being a human in this part of the world, then my mind imputes on that, okay? My ignorance covers over the imputing process. I don't know that I labeled. There's just, and what appears to my consciousness, and this is the problem, I've merely labeled desk on that configuration, okay? And then we'd say a desk comes into being, but it's empty. An empty desk, meaning lacking concrete, unchanging, reified nature. Desk comes into being, okay, that kind of desk, an empty desk, empty of inherent nature, arises to my consciousness. My mind labels desk on that, okay? Desk comes into being, okay? If it was inherently existent desk, then it has to be desk for all beings, everywhere, okay? Tiny insect. An ant is crossing the room, comes to the desk. Does it have experience of desk in its mind? Probably not. There's no inherently existent desk there. It has a completely different, it might be like mountain. Now, I don't know if they have language like that. but it's got major obstacle to start traversing. Very different experience than we have. That's the ant's consciousness. That's a tiny insect's consciousness. And that's why when you and your friend come in contact with a certain person, you might really like them, and your friend has a totally different experience. And you'll say, what do you mean? This is so-and-so. He's great. But your friend doesn't have that experience. Different karmic seeds in their mind, right? Like if I said to you, how many people in here, I've done this before, how many people in here like tomatoes? Put your hand up. Okay, not so much. Not so much tomatoes. You don't like tomatoes?
Yes, I like.
Oh, okay. Online, put your hand up. Who likes tomatoes? Who doesn't?
Wrong example.
Okay, because I have a mixed view on tomatoes. I kind of like them, but I didn't like them as a kid, and I'm always like, it's not my first thing. Okay, so is it the tomato or is it from the mind? Or should we pull out another? Oh, here's one that'll always get people. I don't know what you call them, but lady fingers, okra, we call in the States. You know that vegetable? Okay, now some people are going, okay. Who likes lady fingers?
If they're well fried.
If they're well fried, okay, there you go. If they're well fried, who doesn't like them? Yeah, some people. They were just serving them to us at Copan and okra. It's a cheaper food, and some people well fried like them. But they serve them. I remember one meal we were laughing very much. So they're gooey. They're very gooey. Okay, they're goopy. They serve them at a meal. At the same meal, they had another one of my favorites, eggplant. I'm not overly fond of eggplant. I like some things made with eggplant, but also goopy. Eggplant is also with lots of seeds. And it was so funny because we were saying, this is the real gooey meal today. It was like just everything was like swimming in this. But again, you have to keep poking at this that's so interesting because, my partner likes this and I don't like this. So you can see it's from the mind. You can start to poke at that. We never think about it though. We never think about karma. We never think about it. So I just wanted to present a little bit with the desk. Keep thinking about it, Yenny, you had a question.
We're in 3 now, but how would a Buddha see that gooey meal? He would just eat it, or she.
Okay, so this is great. Enlightened consciousness. How do they view? And some of our friends discuss this. We discuss this at different times. First of all, I don't know how the Buddha would really see because I'm not a Buddha. But what does the enlightened consciousness do? So one of the things is it's so vast and inconceivable, the enlightened consciousness, the Buddha mind, vast and inconceivable. Just to give you an example, they see past, present, and future karma. They know, they don't only see it, they know the past, present, and future karma, okay, of all beings. So that's not just human beings, that's insects, sea animals, everything in all realms, in all world systems. Okay, so there is a belief in Buddhism, there's other world systems, and they see all this simultaneously. They know this simultaneously. So can you get your mind around that? I personally cannot. That's inconceivable. But that's the Buddha consciousness. So in discussion with some of my friends who teach and have been at this for a while, it seems as if as a result of that, they're able to understand and see things the way we see things. So as a result, they generate huge compassion for us because they know how lost we are because we see things existing concretely, especially ourselves, and that's the biggest mistake of all. But they see how we're caught in that loop. So their mind just generates great compassion, but they don't experience it the way we do. So again, they may come in contact with the okra and be able to see that, like Rinpoche said once, he was served food. And when he looked down in the bowl, his experience of the food is it was covered in insects, live insects. Like whether they didn't clean the food or didn't wash the lettuce, I don't know what the experience, but he said he looked down and that was his experience. But again, he's beyond that. It doesn't disturb his mind. It doesn't elate his mind. The mind exists in a state of constant bliss, but with great compassion, like understanding. So he could then choose whether to eat the okra or not. I don't think it would make any difference to his consciousness. You know, it could be that if he felt it was beneficial, he would eat it. If he felt it was beneficial to the host serving it to make them happy, he might eat it. If he felt it was beneficial to his health, you know, or it was beneficial not to eat it, like Rinpoche on an airline once, when they serve the food, and he has long offering prayers before the food, right? So having a long offering where finally the attendant kept coming back and saying, we're going to need to collect the food in 5 minutes. Like he hasn't eaten any. And he kept saying to Roger, Venerable Roger, Rinpoche's main attendant, we are going to need to collect the food. And finally coming around saying, we need to collect the food now. So that, and Rinpoche hadn't eaten any, he was still offering. And then they took the food, Rinpoche hadn't eaten, and then Rinpoche said to Roger, to Venerable Roger, well, I got the benefit. It was really about the offering more than so again, they might choose not to eat based on what they're doing. I hope that answers it. We'll take more questions in a little bit. Okay. So you want to understand this labeling process. There has to be a valid basis of designation. Okay. And then the mind immediately labels. We miss the labeling process based on our ignorance. We don't realize we're labeling. A concretely existing tanka appears to my consciousness. We say tanka, everybody turns around and goes, there's the tanka. Okay, fine. But it appears to my consciousness. Then the problem is that what I just did was I labeled on a valid basis of designation. And in this case, I'll say table or desk again. My mind labeled on that. I missed the labeling process. That's one mistake right there. Missed the labeling process. But now I've labeled on the desk. So what I'm not seeing is a configuration of a flat top with legs and wooden or whatever color it is, merely labeled by my mind, desk. Merely labeled by my mind, desk. That's not what appears to my consciousness. That's not what appears to an ordinary consciousness, ordinary being. That's most of us. That's not what appears to a consciousness of a being that has contaminated aggregates. That's us. Like that hasn't had a direct perception of emptiness. So what ends up after I've merely imputed desk on a certain configuration, right? But then what projects back to my mind is an inherently existent desk. Inherent existence comes back to my mind, concretely existing for all of time. This is the way we see ourselves. This is how we experience ourselves, our kids, our home, our car, everything, our boss at work, right? So then if you don't like your boss at work, right? And then this opens up and sound comes out of this hole when they're talking, you impute, I don't like on that. Inherently existent boss there, and then you suffer. Okay, inherent existence causes you, keeps you mired in your suffering. So anything that interferes with your kid comes home sad, disappointed, crying, whatever, huge experience of your heart comes up. Distress, suffering. Okay, somebody takes your phone, distress, suffering. You didn't understand how the phone existed in the beginning. You know, I know our phones are important, our computers are important, our lives live in them now, like that. It would be a total hassle for me to lose my phone while I'm traveling, doing teaching tours and things like that. But is it the end of your world, or is it just an inconvenience like that? Like how does your mind manage? Because as long as we have contaminated aggregates, the suffering is going to rear its head. That's its nature due to contaminated aggregates. We are going to suffer. How do you want to deal with your suffering? So we'd like to deal with it more spaciously, more open. Again, not losing our bodhicitta in the face of that. The bodhicitta, the good heart. I don't want to stop thinking that I want to help others because I'm suffering now. And you see people at different levels. I've seen people with cancer diagnoses. So I've seen some folding in on themselves, grasping onto everything, yelling, angry, depressed, tremendous suffering, and spewing that all out over everybody around them. People really trying to take care of them. I've seen other people with cancer diagnoses with chronic pain. They appear quite joyful most of the time, very focused on helping others, not so much talking about their own situation, taking care of what they need to take care of with their treatment, but just getting on with it, keeping the mind in a more buoyant space. How do you want to do it? Think about it. How do you want to set your life up like that? So it's possible. What we need to start doing is making the imprints now, making the imprints now. And so Rinpoche goes on about, and he's using, he uses an example of a flower at one point. And now it's spring, so beautiful flowers, right? Again, if you see a beautiful flower, you label that on it, it comes from your karma, it comes from your mind. Wonderful, okay? But it's also fleeting, the flower. Not always going to be there, but sometimes we have great attachment to something as mundane as a flower, okay? I've seen people give somebody flowers and they go, I don't like those kind of flowers. I like the orange ones. I like the pink ones. I don't like roses. I don't, you see, but that's mundane, but then that's how their lives are with everything. That's the imprint they're making. You're making a habit. Every time you respond, react, okay, now we're not perfect. Give yourself a break. We're not perfect. Like that. But can you catch your mind a little bit before it starts, as we would say, tumbling downhill into negativity? Okay. And then Rinpoche says, the view of you that we see comes from your karma. Your view of me comes from your karma. Okay. And then Rinpoche goes on at one point, I'm sorry about the view of your karma if you don't like what you're seeing. Okay. But it completely comes from your mind. Okay. And he said, this is a very important meditation. Okay. This is a simple meditation you can take through your day. I know you can't do it all day long. I know that. The mind's not habituated in that way. There's some people that do that a lot of the day and then spend time in more formal meditation on emptiness to get emptiness. Okay. But at least we're going to step through this weekend. We're going to work on this in our break times. Okay. Is you want to keep thinking this is coming from my mind. You're walking in the bathroom, let's say break, using the bathroom. All of this experience of this bathroom is coming from your mind. That it's clean. There's white tile. I'm just thinking about the bathroom here. That there's a working toilet. They put all the things in there that you need, soap to wash your hands, and it comes from my mind. Comes from my mind. Then I go to Nepal and a different experience of a toilet over there. Actually, the toilets have gotten really good over there, I must say. And it's interesting because poorer country. So suddenly I have a karma to be in a poorer country. So you want to relax your sanitation issues, but I'm still marveling at, after so many years in Nepal, where I go into a toilet there, in a public toilet, like from a restaurant, and to find toilet paper in there, in the women's toilet, that's a huge thing. There's toilet paper in there now, often. I'm still always like, there's toilet paper. Like I'd still get a little, because in Nepal, it used to be beyond the beyond with the toilets. If you could even find a toilet sometimes, it was really marginal. Again, coming from my mind, comes from my mind. And Rinpoche says, I think this is an extremely important meditation to practice this awareness, okay? Very basic philosophy of Buddhism, okay? The very base, it completely comes from the mind, from the karma, like that. Everybody okay? Any questions so far? Any other second question?
Yeah. Karma is a mental factor, the mental factor of intention. But what's more important is to be conscious of that karma, of that intention, isn't it?
It's equally the same. It's like, of course, we want to understand our intentions and we miss those a lot. We're not habituated. Sure. Yeah, very helpful.
And that is mindfulness, I think, to be conscious of the intention.
Yeah, I think for all of us. Yeah. So one of the things I mentioned, we had a brief motivation in the beginning and we did some prayers. But you can habituate. I've talked about this so much in the past in other classes, and motivation is key. Our motivation is key, the intention. Sometimes they say there's slightly different intention and motivation, but they're related. So any activity you do, think about Set a positive intention. And if it's a bodhicitta motivation, meaning, we have to go to the bathroom sometimes for our health. Come on, right? So I'm going to go to the bathroom right now and just go quick so I can maintain my health. And for me, it would be to continue to lead this course, this program, so that, and may it help me plant seeds that I can get enlightened quickly to benefit all living beings. With that purpose, I'm going to go to the bathroom now. Then going to the bathroom, very mundane activity, little bit lifted up. Most of the things we're doing, there's no intention thought about, no motivation. We're just blindlessly doing it. Brushing my teeth, I'm having a snack, I'm walking home. So the more you can get your mind generated, I'm walking home right now. I need to get home. That's where I sleep. We're finished the course. What I'm going to do, can I do it? And can I, a little bit as I'm walking home, focus on those around me? If somebody needs help, if somebody needs me to get out of the way and they're going faster, let me let them go. And may that plant seeds of deep virtue in my mind to help me become a Buddha quickly so I can benefit all living beings. With that intention, I take myself down the sidewalk or I get in my car and, right? So the more you can keep quickly labeling that in. Now, granted, we set an intention in the morning, a lot of us, for the day. Okay, but it's nice to just have little reminders, You can put them around your house if you like. Little messages. We had one at the center. I remember you'd go in the bathroom and above the light, it would say, what's your motivation today? So it would tip you off of like, oh, I hadn't thought about it. Okay, I'm washing my hands. So very, very helpful to think about the consciousness of it. Yes. Yeah.
I think in the Kopan prayer book also are practices for if you go to the toilet.
Yes.
If you open
That's
the
right.
toilet, you open the.
That's right. So in one of the prayer books, our FPMT prayer book, thank you. Rinpoche's had a list of like, if you're spitting, I mean, people don't usually spit, but in Asia, a lot of people do spit. So, but if you're going to the toilet, right? If you're blowing your nose, if you're like, it has regular everyday things that you're doing. If you want to gain more merit, you can use, there's a mantra. So you say the mantra and what you do is you can't do them all at once. So take one a month or one a week and you go, I'm going to learn that mantra. And every time I go to the bathroom, that's the mantra I'm going to do. It can be very helpful. Some people really like that. So again, there's a lot of practice. So what you want to do is, please, bite-sized chunks. Rinpoche told me that a long time ago, bite-sized chunks. Because we get this thing, we go, I want to do it all. This course, for instance, this is online. You can log in and go online and Living in the Path, go to that module under our education tab on fpmt.org, go to Living in the Path, log in, and you might need to sign up to get a login for online things. And you find this whole course, but it's vast, this course. And this is just one little piece. Everything comes from the mind. It's one piece of the karma. There's 2 karma modules, but this is only one of them. Well, there's meditations and there's mindfulness practices and there's some videos and slowly, you work through it. And what happens is people get overwhelmed. Lizette and I were talking about this, about which materials I wanted the students to have. And if it's too much, people get overwhelmed. They don't look at any of it, right? If it's too little, that you want to have a balance of things that they can engage, and all students are at different levels. So we have to slowly break it down like that. And so just to continue on a little bit, this is from Rinpoche. I think that karma definitely exists, and every thought, every action has a result, bad or good. Depending on negative thoughts, there is suffering, something unpleasant. Depending on positive thoughts, there's something good. All this is explained by karma. So I think one must abandon even small negative karma. Therefore, it's important, one must abandon even small negative karmas and must practice even small virtues. So again, small virtues, there's lots of little good things we do, and we don't kind of rejoice that we're doing it. Small little things like you just, the other day in the store, I'm not any great practitioner, but the other day in the store, it was very crowded and getting groceries or something. And I remember I stopped and let these people go in front of me. Like I was a little bit like, oh, it's really busy, and then I just went, okay, I'm not in any particular rush. Let them go, little tiny little mode of thought, that was suddenly not about myself. Okay. And then and so we do all these little kindnesses. So let those grow in your heart and mind and let that become the automatic thing. Like that'll come up. And we do know people that are kinder than other people. So some people, that's all they're doing. And then other people that tend to be very self-absorbed a lot of the time, like that. And so it's nice. Everything is a movie from your karma. And what I want to do is let's show, can we go to the second, and let me see if I can find that second video. Because Lizette did send me, and here, I think with transcription, so you can read, so it's easier. Let me just pull this up. I think I've got it here. Or are the video transcripts separate? I'm gonna see.
The best kind of holiday.
Yes, I think so. It should
Because I have
be,
it here also.
okay, let me just double check that that's, see what she did is there's a long, it's the
Yeah.
whole thing.
Yeah,
It's,
the transcript, and it has the start and ending points of the snippets you want to show.
yes, but I think that the transcript, did she get the new transcript that has that on the side of it, or?
YouTube, it's a YouTube link with subtitles.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, if you can show that and and you've got the,
And part 2,
yeah, and let
So-
me, what I'm gonna do is just find the. Do you have my time things on there?
yeah, so is it
Great.
part 2? You want, I think yesterday you shared part 1, right?
Part two, yeah.
56.
And it's got the minutes and let me see if I can find it too, because I want to make sure we're showing the right,
It's about a movie screen, yeah, machine that it projects on a movie screen.
yes. So is it, but you have the right time?
Yes.
Just to get those in
Just
between.
and, yeah.
Great, thank you.
So,
Thank you, Sylvie. Yeah, so please, if you can see the screen here, and then those of you who'll see it online.
Then it produce
yeah,
a project on the movie screen.
And it should be 21 minutes to 27.
The past karma
so
coming
1 hour and 2.
or now is project. You see, constantly. So it's traveling, it's going back. All this what you see each time in a different or constantly projecting. So, so the imprint coming imprint left on the medical bypass action. You see. Yeah, no, see, no, see, manifest out. see, including friend, enemy, stranger, same, exactly same, came from your mind. So that's now here, why you get angry? If you think it came from outside, not came from your mind, it came from outside, or then you get angry. You know, then you get angry. Then you get angry. Then you get angry. You get attachment. Friend, enemy, you get angry. So that. So see this discriminatory. So this. But if you practice mindfulness, you know, which is completely, totally opposite, came from your mind. You see what this? First your karma, okay, past karma. This view, friend, enemy, you see, from your, I say, past karma. Okay. Mm. Then the next one, right now, your mind, what label you put it right now. You see, come from that. If you label a friend, if you label your mind, label a friend, or you see friend, with a belief, and you label enemy right now, your mind right now label enemy with a belief, and you see that enemy. Mm. You see, like that. So that's second explanation. So what you see came from your mind. Then, of course, as I mentioned, give the example of flower. Then you see, then not only you're not aware, just what you see now is just now came from your mind. From the enemy danger. So then you see, not only you're not aware of that, but hallucination. You have hallucination. You know, came from your mind. Not come from outside. Come from your mind. You see, imprint left in the mind by the ignorance concept truisms. So this decorated this big hallucination, this very heavy hallucination, truisms. You see, now
Truly existent, not traditions, truly existent.
but total mistake. This exists from us. You know, this as reality, as a truth, reality, according to point of view, ignorance. You see, as a truth, this reality, or you know, friend enemy existing from its a friend enemy existing from its own side. Came from its own side. So you see, which is total hallucination, but looking at it pure, looking at it truth, reality. So now here, exactly same. Now this body, you know, skin. Okay, so that exactly same. What you see. So one thing is your eyes are not clear. So you know, every pure machine manufactured glass, then you see all the mistakes and all the ugliness, you know. All the many mountains, many kind of like hills, kind of the, when you put magnifying glass. So, can you imagine? Anyway, so anyway, do those things. Then you see, see. So not attached to, you know, every single this heals. You see, you know, like you're not attached to that. When you look at each heel, each pores. So you're not you don't feel inseparable. You don't feel inseparable with the, when you look at it with the seed, its pores. You know. So anyway, so then after that you see, so even the skin, you know, have you seen it? Same from your karma. Okay, it's view of your karma. Then next you say, oh, right now, what you see, what you see, beautiful lady, came from your mind. Your mind, your mind made imputed with the belief. Then that's what. Then this is what you is what you see. Appears what you see. Okay? So just now, keep in mind, okay? The next one. Next one. And then this how's it? Then total opposite. Total opposite view to this one. Just now, just a second before your mind millimeter, beautiful this, blah blah blah, beautiful this, then, but appeared here. So you see, so so, then appeared, and you see that. Look at that. But now you see the way they appear to you, complete opposite to the second before your mind millimeter. You see, total opposite that. It exists from the side. Never came from your mind. Never came from nothing to do with your mind. Not labeled by mind. None of that. What's that? Not me. This vessel, not merely labeled by mind. Of course, this is there, not merely labeled by mind. You see, so there's hallucination there. Then not even there. Besides that, not labeled mind at all. Not labeled by mind, by your mind at all. This hallucination, this very gross hallucination there. You see. So what Rangjuba says, Rangjuba's point of view of true existence, or the true existence. Understand? Hallucination.
So what's that? In the middle.
So say like that, hallucination.
5 minutes, then we have 2 and 3 to go.
Total hallucination.
The 27 minutes it was supposed to stop. Yeah, you can stop it there. That's okay. Yes, I just wanted to break it down a little bit. So people following?
Yeah.
Okay, so again, what Rinpoche is saying is we have an appearance that comes from the mind. And then there's a label put onto something. But then what happens is it doesn't appear that way back to us. It appears as hallucination. So mistake comes up, and then we believe in that hallucination. And then that's where we act through all that, completely acting in the wrong way. So he's saying like friend, enemy, stranger. I think it's a danger if it's friend, enemy, stranger. Okay. So that's what it arises based on the karma in our mind, based on the seeds in our mind, coming from the mind. Then we impute, then we project, we label out there onto the thing. But what happens is we don't see the labeling process. So then what arises is true existence, truly existent enemy, truly existent friend, truly existent stranger, truly existent I like this, truly existent I don't like this, truly, constantly. So this hallucination comes up and we buy into that. We believe that. True existence, completely false, Rinpoche says, total hallucination. So that's how we're seeing everything. And that's the source of the suffering. It's the source of our attachment, our pain, our aversion to people, that's where wars come from, because we don't have that view. So we want to keep working with that is coming from the mind, and it's startling, these videos. I was at these teachings, this retreat, and the first one in 2009, some of us felt that was the most powerful, and it was obviously prior to Rinpoche manifesting a stroke, but we weren't really sure what this Light of the Path retreat was going to be about. And it was the first time it was held in North Carolina. They rented a separate place, separate from the center, because about 200, 300 people came for two to 3 weeks or 4 weeks or something. But somehow the Sangha are seated in the front. And I ended up in I'm not, ordained at that time. I wasn't ordained for years. And there were people in front of me, nuns in front of me. You sit in ordination order. But I was seated on the aisle. So I was really in front of Rinpoche, the inside aisle, and then quite close to the front. And he just seemed larger than life. I've never seen him quite in that. I mean, I was just blown out by the, there's something transmitted also in person that you get in person. It's not quite, you don't feel it as much, and I just remember some of us were like, So the clearing of the throat you get in the quality of how Rinpoche used to teach a lot. And on a funny story, some years ago, they held a Vajrasattva retreat for 3 months at a center in California, Land of Medicine Buddha, some years ago. And I had already done the retreat, but was working at a neighboring center, Vajrapani. So I had to work, but I would come over on the weekends when we didn't have a program. And I would just, and there must have been 80 or so people that did the 3-month retreat. They came from all over the world. It was wonderful. It's fantastic. And so I would sit in the back, on the floor. Most people were seated, not in chairs and things. And Rinpoche was teaching. And at one point I got something stuck in my throat. Some incense came through and I got kind of choked up. But Rinpoche was clearing his throat. This was prior to manifesting the stroke. And Rinpoche was kind of in the front going, and then I would echo and go, like not knowing this was happening. I was just trying to clear my own throat, not so focused on, but it just seemed to happen. Like Rinpoche would clear his throat and then I would clear my throat. And I wasn't aware that and then all of a sudden a few people in front of me turned around with angry looks on their face. Like I was imitating Rinpoche, like mimicking. It was so funny. I remember when I turned around, all of a sudden I see these friends and they're like, yo, hello. Like, and then I went like, oh, and then we all kind of laughed. That it was so darling when Rinpoche would teach us. So I just want to make sure it's good to hear directly from Rinpoche of how there's a manifestation that appears to your consciousness. All the time things are appearing, right? All the times. We don't realize we're labeling, okay? We don't realize it comes from our karma. We don't realize it comes from our mind. All of these things around you, whether it's delectable and wonderful, whether it's, I don't like that manifest, whatever that is, it's all appearing from our mind, coming from our mind. Then the mind labels on that. It has some name that it calls something. It's defined. Most things are already defined, okay? But what appears back, once I label it as what appears back, is true existence. It appears concretely existent. Mistake. That's a hallucination. That's a mistake simply due to an ignorant consciousness, a consciousness that has come back based on contaminated aggregates. And all that means is you're not a bad person. All that means is I don't have a direct perception of emptiness, but I'm working on it. We can work on it. But because of that, my view is tainted. Because of that, you never have the correct view. Okay. So I find personally, I don't lay a trip on myself. It gives me all this space. Just having some mindfulness of that gives you space. So you come into a room and there's a person you've already set up in your mind, holiday time, let's say, or you're going to a party and you know that person that you don't like is going to be there. You go into your job and there's the person, the colleague or the boss that you don't like. So you've got a little bit of a setup, which creates tension in your cells and in your mind, and a little bit of stricture here at the heart. This happens all the time, right? Whether you're walking down a busy street, whether you happen to find yourself in Amsterdam that you need to go down to one of the tourist areas at this time of the year, you know how crowded it's going to be. And, like I notice I've already been here. This is my 3rd visit now in 3 years. And now I'm already avoiding those areas. Like I know, like this is not the time to go. Like when I come in November, or if I come back, I'll be here in September, October, it's a little easier, but this is not really the time to go to those areas unless you have to. But then you find you're in those areas. Maybe you're riding your bike to one of those areas, right? And then you see the tourists don't know about the bike lanes. So there's somebody right in front of you. And how do you feel? Like suddenly everything is, and you have things going on in your mind that are not so generous, right? Little bit, you're labeling on the tourism, but it gives, as long as you have this mindfulness, then it gives you space. Oh, it's coming from my mind. Have you ever gotten in the wrong lane at certain times and walked? Yes, of course you've done that. We've all been there, right? And it gives you space to kind of go, yeah. And we have to find a way, we're all interconnected. So we need to find a way to do this harmoniously, gently. I recommend with humor, with lightness, kindness. That's why this is so helpful, is it just gives me some mindfulness And then the space opens up. If not, and I'm thinking there's an inherently existent tourist that just stepped into me, they stepped into my path purposely, they're horrible, they're evil, they're doing it to me. You know, if you're a little off tilt that particular morning because you didn't have a good morning, even more negative projection. Then that sets up more negative imprints in my mind. Me circling around again, samsara, again and again and again. Okay, we're going to take a break. Okay. Let's take 15 minutes, 15, 20 minutes. Okay, but we're going to take a break with mindfulness. This is the mindfulness exercise right now. So if we're here, we're not talking. I just want you to use only essential talking if we need, in your own spaces. Mindful break, whether you have a cup of tea, okay? Look at it's coming from your mind, that you happen to have that kind of tea that you like. You're projecting on all of that. Just simply coming from your mind, a positive karmic seed ripening that you have the ability to have a nice cup of tea, nice cup of coffee, whatever it is, coming from my karma, from my mind, that cup out there. There's no inherently existent cup, no inherently existent toilet, no inherently existent washing my hands, whatever you're doing, mindfulness break. And look at the labeling process. Look at projection from my mind. Look how it arises from the mind. It looks like it's out there, looks concretely out there. I mean, I pick this up and I go, well, there's a cup here. It feels solid. It's holding liquid, feels solid. I'm labeling that cup, liquid inside tea, labeled coming from my mind, right? But my mind is missing the labeling and there's a projected concrete cup there, but I know that doesn't exist. That's a hallucination. It looks like that. Open up some space there. Think about the mental imputation, mind labeling. Let's take a break.